Wait, so was Derek?
Derek, you talk a lot about time for self-reflection, or to reflect on once the season was over. What are some of the things you think need to be reflected on now, during not just today, but the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. Obviously, there's some improvement. That's pretty obvious. You know, you look at the black and white improvement, we improved 11 points. You can also look at it, black and white, is we missed the playoffs. And that's been hockey for 100 years, making the playoffs. You know, probably, I'll sound repetitive, but I think our guys are finding out it's still about probably keeping it out of our net. Obviously, we scored a ton more goals this year. We went from 26th to 13th in goals for. Those goals helped us, but when you want to keep pushing and you hope to get over that line, I still think it's how you play your team defense and keeping it out of your net going forward. And you know, there's some positives there. Actually, goals against improved from a year ago. We went from 275 to 273. Shots against per game actually went up almost 2, not quite 2 a game. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it ends up being volume. And you know, you're spending more time in your zone you want. But a positive underlying with our defense, grade A chances against, which we kind of live on as coaches. We were 18th in the league a year ago. We were 15th in the league this year with grade A chances against. So we were in the top half of some team defense. So improved, some positives, but obviously not good enough. I'm sitting here talking to you instead of preparing for the Rangers. So again, you know, we'll look at a lot of different things, but if we want to keep pushing this forward, and I appreciate the extra offense, I appreciate the improved special teams, but if you want to be a real contender, it's still going to be about keeping out your net.
How much do you study that 7-game skid beyond just not having Dylan?
Yeah, I'd have to reflect more back on that. Maybe we watch those games exactly back. Obviously, not having Dylan, it was a big part of it. You don't have to be the most expert hockey mind to see. I mean, I saw a stat where we're 100, just over 100-point team with Dylan in our lineup. We're picking first overall with him out of our lineup if you're going to project wins and losses. So it's just probably where we're at. Our depth, our center depth, it was a tough player to lose when he's playing 22 minutes. Now he's playing 22 minutes. He's driving us for 22 minutes, but again, it's still one player. It's a team sport. Could have got a little more out of probably some areas. So, of course, that'll be a reflection. I think we were 4-10 without him. I consider it 4-11. One of his injuries happened early, in which we ended up being tied 1-1 right after his injury. So that was a tough one. Hopefully with some added depth and some other guys driving us, we can absorb an injury like that going forward.
Derek, think about the defensive improvements that still need to happen. How much of that do you think can come from the group that's coming back next year, and how much will have to be personnel that has that as well?
Yeah, I think personnel, that would be Steve. I think Steve did a phenomenal job in adding some pieces. Again, we wouldn't be talking about being on the cusp or improving 11 points. Steve, again, didn't fill some holes within our lineup. What you saw, you probably asked the question, we live our DNA. I'm not going to say we sacrificed some defense for some offense, but you know, we had 2 18-goal scorers on our fourth line. We just had a lot of guys throughout our lineup where their DNA was to score goals, and we needed them. And there was a lot of nights we appreciated them, but you can also see a lot of our forwards, defense first is maybe not their DNA, but I give a lot of them credit in that it became their DNA when they started caring about winning and playing for the team and trying to play the right way. So I think it's probably a little bit of both. There's no doubt with just our core coming back, of course we can improve defensively. We're going to have to learn to improve defensively. I think young guys take their steps defensively. Even our key core guys, Lucas Raymond, still a minus player. He's going to improve in that area. Simon Edmondson, phenomenal for us down the stretch. Some things found him too. That's part of being a young player. So I think there'll be some growth within the group. But of course, I'm talking about taking the next step. You would like to build around some defensive DNA, and I hope we get that. Even within the group, you look at the change we had in our group when Rass, Kopp, and Fisher took a lot of pride in shutting down some top lines. They produced some wins for us, so maybe a little more of that in our DNA, but full trust in Steve and what he'll do going forward.
Derek, how much of the goals against was goaltending versus the defensive play? Are you able to sort that out a little
No,
bit?
I can't. I cannot talk any more strongly about our goaltending. It ended up being a huge positive for us in a really tough circumstance. All three of our guys battled. Alex Lyon was put in a really tough situation. James Reimer was put in a really tough situation. We talked about Dylan Larkin's first injury. Alex Lyon was also injured in that time too, and Reimer's had. Those guys gave us everything and then some. Not only were they battling as hard as possible, they were winning games down the stretch. So, of course, you can look at underlying numbers. I don't know exactly where our goals against the same percentage. I'm guessing it's not going to be in the top half of the league, but win percentage on those guys. Even Billy's numbers were drastically down from a year ago, but his wins were not. He won a lot of hockey games for us, so I cannot stress anymore how proud I am on our goaltending, the battle. They lifted our group, so that's a tough question for me to judge. How much of it is our D-zone or defensive play or goaltending? I think we all can recognize if we want to keep taking steps, our overall team defense will have to improve.
How important is it for Husso to come back healthy? I mean, you were kind of projecting him as the number one, obviously.
Well, I think the emergence of Alex Lyon is very exciting. Huge kudos to our management group to have the vision of not only signing him, but to not rifle him through waivers. And that was something we discussed a lot. Thank God they didn't. Good vision on them. Another probably feather in their hat on the big picture of things. But with his emergence, that's very exciting. Just want Billy to get healthy. Obviously, a Billy, Alex Lyon tandem, I think both at their best can be exciting for us. So, of course, I just want Billy to get healthy, get right, and go from there.
We talked to Mo yesterday kind of about his season, and he is obviously very proud of those tough matchups he faced all year. But as a coach, how do you kind of, having a couple days now, take a look at how he was used and whether that's the right fit, the wrong fit, as you kind of look at him moving forward?
It's a good question. Even my exit interview with him, we asked a lot of them. That's where we're at. It's probably why we improved so much is not only did he handle those matchups, how well he did within those matchups. Will we get a little deeper? Maybe emergence of Simon, the quality play of some of our other D in our top four. We can lessen that load on him a little bit, potentially. But he's a one top pair D-man for us on a team that's trying to build. He's going to be seeing that the rest of his career. That's why there's such optimism about him and our group. So, is it a little unfair to him? Maybe, but you're growing. You're our best D-man. You're part of that core going forward. I don't know if that's going to change for him.
You mentioned a couple of times how nobody expected this team to make the playoffs, but after coming this close, how much are the expectations raised going into next season?
Expectations are for certain going to change, and that's a positive. Expectations changed when we went 16-4-2 in February. Expectations changed when we started season 5-1. Expectations changed when we won 6 straight. Don't shy away from that. It's reality. You want to grow somewhere, we're going to grow. And of course, expectations are going to change as we keep building this, and that's all part of it. And if we don't have the stomach for it, we're going to be in trouble. I have the stomach for it. Our group has the stomach for it. It's part of growing. So our goal next year is going to be simple. We want to build on what we did this year. We had a great start in my first year last year. We had a great start this year. To start the season, we went 5-1, and that was as simple as having a great training camp. And our goal will be the same next year, to have a great training camp and a good start.
Just a simple follow-up question. How come you don't want to say playoffs is the goal?
Because I really think playoffs will take care of itself. I think you'll find out. I barely said that all year. Right. We talked about it being above the line. When you start saying playoffs, you start putting outcome ahead of your process, and we'll never get there doing it. It's our process, and there was times within our season our process was amazing. There was times within our season it wasn't good enough, and that's, again, why we didn't make the playoffs. So I just think that's kind of coaching 101. It may be harder next year. This team will look a little different. It may look a little bit younger. We benefited from some phenomenal free agent signings and some phenomenal veteran leadership that came within some of those free agents that may or may not be here next year. We still have some holes in our team. We're not a finished product. We're flawed in some ways. And again, even expectations going into last year, when you said no one expected us to be here, I don't think it was a knock on our group. It was probably a credit to our division. I don't see teams in our division going anywhere. You look at the Buffaloes, the Ottawas. New Jersey was a 100-point team a year ago. These teams aren't going anywhere. They're only going to get better. And they're going to strive to get better. They're going to battle to get better, just like we are. So just saying playoffs, we're not to that point now where it's obviously a given. We have to earn it, and we got to keep pushing forward for it.
Derek, you mentioned you need more guys outside Dylan who can drive this team. Lucas emerged as one clearly this season. Who else besides Lucas do you see internally who can begin to drive this team, especially offensively, beginning next season?
I think a lot of guys within that core. Obviously, Lucas was just impressive to see. I can't speak enough of him. I'm extremely proud of him. I asked more of him at the end of the year meeting last year. I asked more of him in his approach. I asked more of him with his practice habits. There was some really tough conversation, and obviously he did it. And we had that end of the year meeting last year. I asked the same of him to keep pushing next year. Let's take another step. Let's keep pushing this. I just think there's a lot of guys within that core. Simon Evanson's emergence. I think obviously there's a reason to be excited about these guys. I think we've done what we've done in the draft the last couple of years, what GR is doing and what they're building. There's a reason for excitement throughout our lineup. So again, really excited about this core. Proud of the core and some steps they took, but we got to keep pushing.
Then when you map out the next step for Lucas, besides offensive numbers, what does it look like for him next season? What is the next level for Lucas after what he did the second half of this year?
Winning hockey. I think he got a taste of it, what it looks like. The fact that he was one of our better players in these meaningful games down the stretch. His passion, his drive. I mean, to watch him score some of those big goals in really huge moments, but to see his passion within those big goals, that's someone that cares about the logo on his jersey more than, I think he mentioned it yesterday, he got lost in a lot of big picture stuff because he was so into trying to get this team over that line. So that's really, really exciting and pretty impressive to watch. But it's just a start, and we're going to want more from Lucas, and I think he wants more of himself.
When you talk process, because at the end of the day, you guys had the exact same amount of points as Washington, who did get it. It comes down to a tiebreaker, right? When you talk about the process, do you look at the process was good enough to get in this year, or like how do you account for? Yeah,
wasn't good enough to get in.
Okay.
Obviously, we weren't there.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're talking about a tiebreaker, I mean, Rowe was the tiebreaker a couple years ago. We would have got over, now it was RW, regulation wins. And it's a fine line. I mean, we literally had the same amount of points, but a huge credit probably to Washington. They beat us twice down the stretch, and those were tough games to lose because we played excellent in both. Our underlying numbers said we probably should have won both of those games easily. We didn't, and those guys beat Tampa, Boston, and Philly. They play Philly? I didn't notice that game. I missed that game. They played Philly the last game of the year to get in, and we took 7 of our last 8 points. So probably a little credit of them, but as far as our process, it's tough. It's just, again, our process got us there, but there were some holes and bumps along the way in our process that didn't get us over. So, again, I'm really proud of this group. Of all the emotions of how that played out, you literally couldn't script that within minutes of how that played out. I'm gutted for the guys because they competed so hard down the stretch. You could see this group, it became more about each other, it became more about their teammates, it became more about the organization than any single individual. It took us a while to get there, and that's why I'm gutted for the guys. They literally gave everything. I don't know what more they could have done down the stretch. So that's why I feel for them.
So Derek, when you look back over the course of the season, it's 1 point. Which game guts you the most?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not. This isn't coach speak. I don't think you can think like that because I even asked our guys not to talk or think like that. I went right in after the game, told them how proud I was of them. I thank them for pushing this organization forward, but it's just a start. And you don't look at the negatives because it's not. We need to push more on the big picture, and we need more out of everyone. But for me, it came like that. Obviously, it's simple to look at the 7-game losing streak, the stretch in December, but it's 82 games. We won 14 games in which we trailed in the third. I mean, those are points we ate up. So we had our own 6-game winning streak. We won the season series versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. We swept the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-0. We went 2-2 against Boston. So if you're going to start nitpicking for points throughout the season, I think that's a bad way to look at it. We gained a lot of points in a lot of tough situations. We went 10 games over 500 at home. We drove the passion of this fan base. They drove us to 10 wins in a row. Could we be a little better on the road? For sure, potentially, but I don't want to be nitpicking on one. And honestly, a single game does not stand out to me.
Newsy, Dylan Larkin talked yesterday just about how tough of a year it was for him in so many different ways, and obviously it's clear this team is not the same without him on the ice.
Yes.
But how did you see him navigate some of the situations off the ice and still be the clear leader of this team?
I cannot. I almost get a little emotional when I talk about Dylan because it was such a tough year. I cannot be more impressed on his growth over 2 years and everything he went through. It is impressive to watch. There's a lot of reasons for me to be optimistic with this group going forward. Him being our captain and him being the type of player he is probably number one. I know people talked about, he mentioned me as being demanding yesterday. He was being humble. I've asked a lot of him, and I've been hard on him over 2 years because I know we're not going anywhere without him. And all he has done is respond and keep elevating. So I just to watch him over 2 years, what he went through personally, what he went through with that injury, because as tough as it's for all of us to watch us lose 7 in a row without him, can you imagine what it was going through with him? And to probably come back a little bit earlier than being ready, and now they come back the way he played, and we obviously turned it right around with some tough competition when he came back. So really proud of him. I love working with him. I love him as our captain, but we need to keep growing together in a lot of ways too. But you can see his passion and what he's about. It's pretty impressive.
Hey Derek, from the outside it seemed like Patrick Kane brought a sort of a star quality, swagger, confidence when he came. If he's not back after this season, how do you replace that, or does it linger?
Well, he'll be hard to replace. He's special. I really appreciate what he gave us, not only what he gave us on the ice, but what he brought to us in the room. You talk about star power, you talk about swagger, that's all real. I probably didn't anticipate the unbelievable human being he was, the unbelievable teammate he was, what he meant for a lot of our guys. So really appreciate it. I just think, we probably also found ourselves knocking on that door because we took a lot of overtime points. We took some shootout points, and he was a big part of it. And again, when showtime, there's something real about that. When he keeps doing it in those moments, time after time after time, even we knew we were eliminated early into overtime, and he still went up in the shootout goal. Like off his hands, like back of the net. Game was over. It's the DNA of him. So appreciate having him. I think he brought a lot to our growth, and he's to a situation where he's going to do whatever he wants going forward. And I just appreciate having him here and love spending time with him.
Derek, will you be able to look at Grand Rapids? And we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but it appears that some of those guys are pretty much knocking on the door. Some are out of options. It appears the team's going to be younger next year. How much will your current duties allow you to see what the Griffins are up to?
I'll be there on Sunday. I love the fact the organization hired Dan Watson. I think the world of him as a coach, but he's also a close friend, and we've worked together in the past. I have full trust in what he's doing down there. So I've watched closely all year, and I'll watch them throughout. It's exciting that they're going to be in a playoff situation. I'll be monitoring very closely with them.
Have any particular players, Griffin, stood out to you this season? Obviously Simon, I would imagine, but
the growth of all of them. Marco has improved vastly. I had Carter at Worlds, obviously my relationship with the University of Denver, watching him grow. Albert Johansson is a puck-moving machine down there. And again, I know it's different, and Steve is an extremely patient manager, and we're all going to be rewarded going forward with it because we have a patient manager that's doing it the right way, draft and development. So they've all taken steps, and that's the way it has to be. So I don't have exacts or specifics. It's just fun to watch that team and watch them grow too. I mean, Kosa's literally just what he did, almost identical in the ECHL to what he did. Got his feet grounded. Now his whole game's coming around. It's very exciting what they're doing there.
Do you anticipate the roster to be younger next year?
It's probably more of a Steve question, but I do anticipate. But I like youth. There's something special about youth. There's something special about rookies, what they bring the group, the passion, the drive, ups and downs with it. Absolutely, I loved Simon when he came up. There's even some times throughout the year I felt we might need a little boost, or we were making some decisions. I maybe even asked for some youth, and that's Steve's job. He tempered it. He doesn't want to take away from his proper development the right way. So I anticipate us to be a little bit younger, but it's exciting for me too.
When you think about Seider's development, he's been PP1 at sometimes. This year was more PP2. Do you see, is he going to kind of settle in as that number 2 power play guy, or do you still see kind of PP1?
Great question. I think that's going to take a life of itself. He's done a great job of that situation. He's growing and developing that situation. That'll take some time. That's a tough position, and it's a tough position. Everything else we ask of our D 5-on-5, tough position. What we ask of our D at the penalty kill. So I think that's still a work in progress. Very, very capable though.
Hey Derek, what did you think of Alex DeBrincat's season?
I thought Alex was great. Obviously, his goal total, I think he wanted more of it. But at the same time, he got us a lot of goals. And even through some of those stretches where he wasn't scoring, he had chances. I was not concerned. What I'm excited about Alex DeBrincat is he went from a -31 player last year, and our win total, point total wasn't a whole lot different than what he experienced last year, and he's a plus player this year. He added some more plays defensively. He had some more battles. He had some more plays on the wall. I think even what Max was referring to is kind of hinting to some of the DNA of our forwards. Some of them are offensive first, and I think Alex takes a lot of pride in putting pucks in the back of the net. But you could see him buying into what it takes to win in the team game. So I've been very happy with Alex, and the other thing I probably didn't anticipate with Alex is he's a phenomenal human being. You generally like the person, the room likes the person. And is that important? No, but I think it is important. So very happy with Alex and looking forward to working with him going forward.
So many growth experiences for the team, but for yourself in your second season, how do you assess that?
I think I grew with the group a little bit, excited about some of the growth. Unique situations for me too. We battle put these guys in meaningful games down the stretch, and we've done that. Meaningful games for me too. And I've asked a lot of the group, and I've pushed the group, and it hasn't been comfortable all the time, but I think being comfortable with the uncomfortable is all part of it, part of the growth. And I'm taking steps with the group.
And you mentioned Worlds earlier. If Team USA were to reach out, would you be interested in going back to Worlds?
Yeah, I know some of the guys got that question. I haven't heard from USA Hockey yet. I obviously understand the fact that we hung in so long. I may probably taken myself out of the potential on the coaching side. They have those things planned a little more in advance of this, but if they call, I'll go 100%. I've never said no to USA Hockey, and I never will. If they need me, I will be going to that tournament. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I'm trying not to overly read into something, but
Got
well, he's got
He was talking about his team in the past.
well, he's a 3-year deal, right? So he's in a contract.
Ann Arbor tomorrow?
He's in the spot where
This a new time. Is there anything else going on?
I know.
Yeah. There.
Can't lose.
The what?
Can't lose the first one.
I know.
They're kind of a lowercase version of Maple Leafs, right? And 5-4.
How big is the file?
No, 7.
Boston sticking it on
I got to say, Boston Carolina.
thinking about it, I'm like,
Sebastian, 7 points here.
yeah.
It'll be good questions.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
Steve, how do you reflect on this season, and especially in light of it's exactly 5 years since you got here? I mean, are you pleased with the progress that this season has shown?
Well, first of all, it was an exciting season. I think for us all, a bit of a roller coaster. A lot of highs and some periods of a lot of losses, lows, I guess. So overall, it was progress. After 5 years, more so than just the Red Wings, but the organization in general, I'm somewhat pleased. I can't say it's perfect, but somewhat pleased with the development of our organization, the play of some of our younger players, not only in Detroit, but in Grand Rapids. If you pay attention to that team, the young players excelling very well, and some of younger players that haven't turned professional yet. So overall, I'm encouraged with the progress of the organization, the development of some of our younger players, and I'm kind of disappointed, as most people are, at the end of the season here, because it was, particularly the last week, was incredibly exciting.
As the coming so close kind of reset expectations going into next season, even though there's going to be some changes on the team, obviously?
We as a staff, I guess, have to make some decisions with our roster, whether we make changes, whether it's with younger players coming up, depending on what we do with some contracts. So I'd like to make some, hopefully, and we'll find out at this time next year if the decisions were good, I guess. But expectations are raised, I think, for some individuals. For our team, like we had 91 points, I think 41 wins. That's tough to do, and we still made the playoffs. So we're probably going to have to get more than 91 points next year to get in, and that'll be a challenge for us. But again, I'm looking more so at the overall growth of the organization, of all of our young players, and I see that progressing, and I hope that translates into more wins for us next year and actually getting into the playoffs.
Steve, there are always changes on a roster, obviously. Do you anticipate natural changes, like young guys coming up and maybe some older guys leaving, or do you think something dramatic would change that you would change?
I don't really foresee anything dramatic. I mean, I guess we could debate what would be a dramatic term, but I'm not going to debate it. Looking at some of the younger players within our organization that aren't in Detroit or didn't finish the season in Detroit, I think there's potential. I would most notably, or specifically, simply for the fact that they'll need waivers next year, would be we could expect or hope that Jonathan Berggren is on our team and having an impact. Albert Johansson, another one, and those are two guys that need waivers next year. So, and in my opinion today, I wouldn't expect either of them to clear waivers. So, we have to make room for them, and it'll be up to them as individuals to earn that spot, whatever spot in the lineup that they can, and that would be. As far as young guys, anyone else, I wouldn't rule out anybody, whoever it may be. Pick a name in GR, or I don't want to say today that they definitely won't be here, but because they're just winding down their regular season and hopefully going to have a good playoff run, and things can change over the course of a long playoff run, and we could see potentially more players pushing for a spot on the roster.
You see Billy and Alex Lyon under contract for next season. Are you comfortable going into next year with that as your goaltending situation, or is that something you'd like to look into this summer?
I think I'd be, it's an interesting position right now around the league in goaltending, that everyone is looking for a goaltender, whether it's a 1, a 2, or a 3, and most teams needed 3 goalies. I guess I would say I would look, all 3 of those guys at different points in the season had a very positive impact on us, and played games that helped us win and put us in a position to almost make the playoffs. So, but having said that, we need they need to be better, we need to be better in all aspects of keeping the puck out of our net, not only with our goalies, but our play defensively, collectively, not just our D-core, our forwards as well. I think it's really my job, and it's not a headline-making statement, but to try and look to see if I can improve our team in any which way, and I will do that at every position.
Steve, just the improvement that you're seeking defensively next season, is that going to have to come from different personnel or just better execution, or how do you improve those goals against?
We've got, what do we have? Currently, including Simon, who ended the season with us, we had 7 under contract, and with Shane Gostis-Behere as a pending UFA. So our D-core will probably be, for the most part, intact. I can't say there won't be changes on it, but so it's not just goaltending and D, it's the forwards, it's collectively our entire team. We have to improve in that area, and it's incumbent upon our coaching staff to instill or improve, continue to work on being more, whether it's a different system or getting better in the way we play, and improving our players in the system. It's practice for me, and get it over and done with. And again, goals against is a challenge around the league. It's more of an offensive league. You're seeing it in the scoring totals of the top players in the league. Goals against averages for goaltenders is down. It's a difficult league to defend in right now. It's become, for whatever reason, a more offensive league, and that's entertaining and exciting, but you still, the best teams in the league probably are somewhere near, the majority of them are near the top in goals against and defensive play, whether it's the traditional stats or the underlying numbers. So collectively, as a team, we have to get better. That's the number one thing. But there will be some change in our roster. I can't tell you that it's 1 player or 4 players or whatever, but whoever's here, we have to improve. I thought we took steps this year, and at times we're good. And as we all saw, at times we had some tough stretches. And when you're not scoring for whatever reason, you got to rely on keeping it out of your net, and I can't solely put it on the goaltenders.
With Johansson, where is kind of he in that nucleus when you look at this?
Pardon me?
With Johansson, where do you kind of look at him in this?
Well, I'm not just going to, having said that he needs a waiver, he's going to have to earn a job. I'm not just going to hand it to him, but I'm kind of I'm really pleased with his development this year, like we have been last year as well, and training camp, off season will be important for them. Having said that, they got to play tonight and Sunday to finish off their season. They're fighting for second place, get home ice in the first round. We'll play Rockford, who's a very good team as well. We're hopeful our team has a good extended run, which will benefit all those guys. And then it's an important summer and a big training camp to show the coaches, one, I belong on the team, and to earn a spot in the lineup. So, I'm confident he'll show enough that he'll be here in the fall, and where he plays, that remains to be seen.
I was related front too with that. Derek mentioned that there was kind of a juggling act this year, figuring out when young guys are coming up, and he mentioned having conversations with you about when maybe bring in some more youth. What was kind of your approach this season to when to bring some of those young guys up and when not to, and as you looked at that this year?
Well, some of them weren't coming up under any circumstance this year. It was just they need to play in the minors, and I'm not going to bring them back and forth. And who were the young guys that came up? Really, it was Jonathan Bergeron at times. Simon came up once briefly at Christmas and really debated that, and not because he wasn't playing well. It was just because I don't want to be shuttling him back and forth. And then, really at the trade deadline, the plan, and he did come up, unfortunately, got injured, and that delayed his call up at that point. Apart from that, any of the other younger players, did we have anybody come up? I don't think so. Younger being
Derek kind of mentioned how there was a point in the season where he thought some youth would be nice, and he mentioned kind of having that conversation with you, and you kind of told him to tap the brakes.
I don't remember that conversation.
Okay.
Steve,
but coaches generally, they ask about the minors, how about this player, how about that player, and that happens a lot. So maybe it was, again, with some of our younger kids that you're there, you see them, they're playing really well, the first-year kids that are there, and it's like, let's just leave them there, let's let them play, and ultimately, I don't want to bring them up to play them 4 minutes and then send them right back down. That's frustrating for these guys.
Steve, your thoughts on the progress that Sandra Paleka made in Sweden, and will you just keep him over there one more year, or will you
I expect him to stay, and we haven't actually had a conversation with him, Kevin, but I expect him to remain in Sweden for another season. But we haven't, literally haven't sat down and said, or had a phone call with him and say, Axe, what do you want to do? Would you like to come over? But my impression, my understanding right now is that he will remain there for another year, and if he wants to do that, we're more than happy with that.
What did you think about him as a player this year, his progress?
Good. I had a chance to watch him at the World Juniors, and he played well, and he's been good. And I haven't, watched a little bit of mostly highlights really in Skellefteå, and he's good. And he just needs time, like all younger D. And he moves the puck well. He skates well. He's got good skills. He's a fun player to watch, and he just needs time to get, like all young players, get a little stronger, more mature, and I think he's going to be a real good player for us. And importantly as well, he's a little different than what we have in a lot of our D prospects. A different type of player, and he'll fit in nicely with our group of defensemen, I feel, in a couple of years.
Steve, did that 7-game losing streak impress on you that center depth needs to be addressed, or what did you see? I mean, obviously Dylan was out, but that 7-game slide.
Well, I think center depth. I think we do have some center depth, but maybe offensive depth more so. Whether it's at center or on the wings, that the other thing it does, it emphasizes if you're not scoring, you better be good defensively, and so the two things I think. We need. I think we're 9th in goals for this year, which isn't terrible, obviously. But we had some. When Dylan's out or we lose a significant offensive player, we need more depth to make up for that. And then again, we need to be better defensively to compensate as well. So, Nate Danielson drafted a year ago, and Marco Kasper previous to that. We think they're good young prospects. We're really happy with how they're coming. They're not ready to play yet. I'm not ruling anything out for next year, but I think in time we're going to be real solid down the middle.
Steve, when you watched Lucas play this year, where did you see him grow the most, especially in the second half of the year? And how much does his star turn, so to speak, brighten the outlook for you guys moving forward?
Well, he certainly showed more so down the stretch his game-breaking ability, scoring big goals, key goals. We watched him do that in junior and whatnot prior to being drafted. And just down the stretch, all the key goals that he scored, I don't think that's an aberration. I think he's going to continue to do that. The biggest growth for, like I watched in this year, was he's a little stronger and he just got more confident. Like in his play, you watch that last home game against Montreal, he got run over twice early. He just gets up and goes. The puck's there, he's going, he ain't stopping. He goes to get it. He goes hard to the net. And I think he just feels more comfortable on the ice. And last year, I thought he played well last year, but it was a grind. And he took a beating, and he kept getting up and playing. And I just think he's even more confident. 3 years in the league now, he has a good understanding of it. And he's a fabulous, talented player with great hockey sense, and he plays with a lot of courage and a lot of determination. And I think his confidence has grown over the course of the season. And I mean, he was really an exciting player, obviously, and can do some really special things with the puck.
Steve, you have a lot of decisions to make this offseason with free agents, both restricted and unrestricted, but specifically Patrick Kane, the impact that he made when you guys brought him in. Where are you at with that? Have you talked to him about it, and do you want to see him back?
Well, I think we have up front 4 pending unrestricted free agents, and on the back end, Ghost. We have 5 pending unrestricteds, actually 6 with James Reimer as well. And have I met with all of them at this point? But yesterday and today, I've got a few players more to meet with, and expressed an interest to all of our guys that look. I have some, some is a very vague term, but I have interest in bringing you guys all back as a bit of a puzzle, and we have some unrestricted free agents that got to sign too, and some of them are going to be, have a significant impact on our salary cap, regardless of whether we go short or long term. So I have an interest in bringing guys back, all of those players, to a certain level. Take into consideration, okay, who's coming up. I mentioned a couple of names earlier. They're going to be on the roster. Kind of get a rough idea, if I can't figure it out sooner than later, of how much money we're going to have, because we're getting close to being a cap team, and I got to really start to think about the cap now. So some decisions may be simply made based on what our cap situation is. But Patrick was he was great, wasn't he? Just like a wizard with the puck, like his skills, his sense, the calmness with the puck in high pressure situations and in the danger areas, like the calmness of it was really good. He was great for our team, as being a playmaker, good for our power play, and being a creative winger has really filled the void for us. And I think he brought a lot of, I guess that term swagger we throw around a lot now, brought that to our team in his own way, because he's not his Showtime, I didn't know he was known as Showtime before, but it so suits the way he plays, but his personality is so under the radar and quiet. But he was great for us. He really was, and I'm pleased with how he played, and it certainly would, like he said yesterday, I think in his comments were guarded a little bit, but he's certainly something he'd consider, and likewise.
Steve, it seems like the trend around the league has been a lot more young players signing 7-8 years right out of entry level. What have you kind of learned seeing some of those deals play out, and how does that shape what you want to or plan to do with Lucas and Mo?
Well, I guess I would leave it to you to judge for yourself. There's a lot of them out there. How many of them are proving value to the team, and then you look at, okay, how much more would they get if they were unrestricted free agents? So it's got to work for the term, and the dollar's got to work for both parties. And if you have to pay a player enough that he's willing to lock up long for give you 8 years, but also it can be dangerous if you're paying an extreme premium for potential. Because a lot of times it can be difficult. And hey, if you don't have a cap issue or any concerns, then you don't worry about it as much. But those deals make you have cap issues as well. So again, I'm certainly open to it. The term at the dollar amount has got to work for both parties, and that can be a challenge at times.
With Lucas, how much does his emergence in the second half dictate that conversation this summer? And that if you wait or to give him a bridge contract, and in 2 to 3 years he could cost you significantly more, do you have to weigh what he did in the second half and figuring out how much he might be worth on a long-term deal now?
Yeah, it goes for any player really. We talk, Mo Sider as well. It's those are the discussions we have, and the projections you try to have, you have, and figure it out. Usually, we're going to figure something out here with all these guys, and I don't know that it's what the term and the dollar amount, but I have an idea of whether it's a shorter term deal or a longer term deal. We know the ranges, and again, just we ask ourselves, okay, for these younger guys, whether they're giving up 4 restricted years and 3 unrestricted years, or 4 and 4, so to speak. It's like you got to pay somewhat of a premium for the unrestricted years, but if they were just simply, you look at, I'm not going to name any player, but you look around the league and you see, geez, if that guy was a UFA today, would he have gotten any more than that? And there's multiple restricted years in there. So the market has changed a lot in that, between the first, the second, and the third contract. The first are pretty much standard. The entry-level deals are what they are, and for the most part, there's some just comparable to guys that you're picked nearby. And the second one is getting a little trickier now, because teams have, some go short, some go long, and it's gotten a little bit more complicated since the original, or this most recent CBA came out.
Steve, with Simon and Albert coming in, it would seem the easy would be to not bring back Shane, but he was so crucial to your power play and some really big points in these last few games. I mean, is there a case to be made for finding a way to fit him in again?
Yes.
Maybe via making trades?
Yeah. It's absolutely. He's very good on the power play. Like a little bit of what we, different on our core. An offensive guy, more of, would he end up with 50-something, maybe 60-ish points? Mo was right there behind him, but a different player that adds to, the depth of our defensive core or complete it. You need to be a good defenders, but you also have some defense that got to generate offense and play on the power play. And as you stated, he was good at that. So yeah, it's something I would like to consider and strongly consider. And contract aside, it's making this all fit, finding the players, one fitting into the cap, and probably intend comfortable carrying 8 defensemen. Although we were very lucky this year and we didn't have any significant long-term injuries on the blue line. But generally, I talk about needing 3 goaltenders. D's a tough position to play, going back to get pucks and blocking shots. Guys, there's a lot of injuries. So I'd like to, if we can figure out a way to do it, he's a valuable player for how we're set up on the back end.
Steve, what's your, assessment of the job Derek has done, how he's grown in that role these last couple of years? And I don't know if he's going into a contract year too. Is that something that concerns you with the head coach?
What?
Having that lingering question of a future there?
There's no lingering question, not for me. It was a roller coaster of a year as far as wins and losses. We were humming along, and then we couldn't win a game, and it was just. And we're trying to figure it out. So there's a lot of good things. The way our team, I think we competed hard. I thought there was a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of determination amongst the players. Obviously, we weren't perfect. But the most important thing is, I feel from my vantage point, Trent, is that our players are motivated, our players are determined, our players, there's a good atmosphere within the locker room, and part of that is the coaching staff helps foster that or create that. So overall, I'm happy with the direction we're going, the coaching that we have. Ultimately, I'll go back to it. We got to become a better defensive hockey team, and it's the fundamentals of defending. And I'm counting on our coaching staff to work with our players and our players to be determined to do that. And it's not necessarily the system; it's the basic fundamentals of defending that at times this year we struggled with, and we need to address it again. Because you look at the teams in the playoffs; the majority of them, they're in the top half in goals against and shots against. And there's a couple I was looking at it earlier. There's a couple that made the playoffs in there, but they can offset it with high octane offense.
Steve, so Tuesday night, were you watching Washington and Philly on a monitor somewhere? Just
yeah,
explain your emotions that whole night. How'd it go for you?
Well, we were mostly watching our game. It was kind of a wild week, with the game in Toronto and we're watching everybody else. And Washington, first of all, you got to hand Washington credit. They battled. They found a way to win hockey games. The Islanders, I think they were 8-1-1 in the last 10. They did it when they had to. For us, we're there in Montreal. We had the game on behind us. Noticing the score, Philly should have got credit for a goal in the first period. It was a terrible call. And then what happened with that? That's irrelevant. I have no control over that. So they should have been winning 1-0. But anyways, David scored. We were quiet. We're sitting there. There's 3 seconds left for. And the face-off goes in the net, and everybody's excited. And we turned around. I think there was 3 or 4 minutes left in the Philly game at that time, and then it was like Philly pulled the goalie, and we're like, oh! And it was in the back of the net, and we're like, we're done. So it was great, and then it wasn't.
You talked about the defense. How do you kind of look at Mo's role and usage this year, and how do you kind of evaluate him? Because you brought in some older veteran defenders, and he was still the guy who got those toughest matchups. How do you evaluate him, and looking at the rest of the core with that?
Well, I think he's a tremendous young player. We haven't been a great team in his 3 years here. He's been thrown in there, and he shows up every game. He battles hard every game. He blocks shots. He gets hit. He makes plays. We're asking him to do a lot, and he's got the mental toughness to weather it all. Like one to get out there and play, and two to be able to handle the minutes against top players. And so I think he's been great, and we're asking him to do a lot. And as our team gets better around him, his role I think might change a little bit. He will be used a little bit differently, which I think will allow him to display or express his more the offensive side of his game a little bit. But he's been tremendous in the role, and it's hard to play. You're going against McDavid one night, McKinnon the next, and Kucherovs and all that. Like, it's a hard thing to do. And we talked about it yesterday. And he's starting every face-off in the D zone, and that's tough to do. But as we get better, hopefully we're starting more in the offensive zone, and you got better players around you, and maybe he's playing in a little bit different role, and he's freed up to do it more offensively.
Do you ever worry about kind of like that's kind of a formative time in a guy's career, right? He's growing, and he could grow some offensive skills, he could grow some defensive skills. Do you ever worry about how that usage impacts how he grows? Because you're trying to manage him to be a number one defenseman for a long time.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Play a lot. I mean, that's what every player's dying to play a lot.
Yeah.
He's playing penalty kill, power play, regular strength. We pull the goalie, he's out there. We're defending a lead in the last minute, he's out there. Player can't ask for any more than that. And if he was drowning out there, I'd have concern. He ain't drowning. Like, he's doing really well, and he's learning from it, and he's going to get better. Is he at the peak of his career? Not even close.
Steve, how do you perceive the relationship between prospect development and results at the NHL level? Is it possible that some of those improved results at the NHL level can be beneficial for young players, even if it makes the initial breakthrough sort of more difficult?
Well, I guess in my time here, I've been pretty conservative in putting young players on the roster. I've taken, for the most part, the approach to finish your junior career, stay in college, turn pro, spend time in the American League until you're ready to go. Mo spent a year in GR, then a year in Sweden during the pandemic. Lucas spent 1 year after his draft, and then we actually had him penciled in to play in GR, and he played well, and we never sent him down, and he's been fine in the NHL. So I guess I don't know that there's a perfect way to develop a player. If they're ready to play in the NHL and they can thrive, or they can be help the team win games, and if you're an offensive-minded forward that you can generate offense but still be responsible defensively, because coaches won't put you on the ice if you're not, or if you're a solid defender and you can handle it, great. You can play. We're not keeping them in the minors if they're not good enough to play in the NHL, but we think if they can benefit and be more, if they're not going to be like real impact, have an impact in the NHL, we prefer they stay in the American Hockey League or stay in college or stay in junior until you're ready. There's no real rush. I like guys playing a lot and having success, because regardless of what league they're in, they're happy and they're having fun and their confidence is growing and they're maturing, and that's important. So that's kind of my approach to it. Now, when we talk specifically with this team, you look at the growth of Lucas Raym, and even more, it's down the stretch here playing in these games these were important games. If we lose, we lose in Toronto, we're done. The guys responded really well. We lose at Montreal at home, we're done. They responded to that, so it was great growth for them. Just being in competitive situations, that is important, whether that's in this case in the NHL, but guys at any level.
Steve, your team has made progress each year, but the appetite has been whetted when you came so close to making the playoffs this year. The next step is what everybody beckoned. Is that officially your expectation as soon as next year?
What's that? To make the playoffs?
Teamwork, yeah. I don't know if I could say that word.
You can say it. I hope to. I don't want to say I hope we make the playoffs. That's what I'm going to say. It's going to be a challenge. Honestly, it's going to be a challenge. I'm nervous. We, as a management group, myself, I guess, being in charge of the management group, have to make some good decisions. And we'll be sitting here next year and say, hey, that was a good decision, or we'll be saying, Steve, what were you thinking? That's the reality of it. And it's a lot of decisions we make. It's the answer is proven after, whether they're decided by wins and losses, making the playoffs or not making the playoffs. I'm kind of going to stick with our approach. If we get one or two of our younger guys that and that's very possible, that give us a boost next year, that help us win more games. If we can tighten it up defensively, that gives us a better chance. But it's going to be difficult. We miss by a point. Pittsburgh misses by 2 or 3. Phillies, we're all right there on the last night of the season, and it's hard to make the playoffs in the NHL. This playoff system is tough. It's exciting. It's a good system, and no system is perfect, but it's good. But again, I long for the 21-team league where 16 of us were making the playoffs, and everybody was saying the system was a joke. Everybody makes the playoffs, so it's tough. I hope we do, but we're going to need development from Mo's got to keep going. Lucas Raymond's got to keep going. Dylan's got to keep going. Everybody got to be a little bit better, and collectively, defensively, we got to be better. I keep harping on that. So,
Steve, what do you think of Dylan's here? After all the stuff he's gone through the last couple of years, how happy and proud are you? Just the way
we battled through a lot of things on the ice, some injuries, some things off the ice as well. He ended up right around a point a game, 30 goals again for 4 years in a row, and he's playing in all situations. I thought he played well. Really, most vivid in your memory is the most recent games, and his play in Montreal at home versus Montreal at home, in Toronto. He a lot of guys, but really asserted himself, took control, skating with the puck. Through the neutral zone and driving to the net and making some plays. Good. He's evolving as a player, changing a little bit in a lot of good ways. You see his role on the power play more in the slot, the bumper they call it. Getting very comfortable there and being very, very effective in that role. I thought he did a good job in killing penalties, getting I think more of an increased role in the penalty kill and doing a very good job on it. So overall, he continues to evolve, and I think I want to speak for him, but very motivated in being in a playoff race down the stretch. It's not another trade deadline where we sell off and we're looking towards next year. That it's motivating, and I think it was great for him.
Steve, when it's no secret, the Red Wings did not react very well with Dylan out of the lineup, and I'm kind of curious. Were you surprised by that? Were you disappointed? And what must be done where a team can absorb the loss of a player like that and not, I'm not going to say total collapse, but kind of have a massive slide?
Well, I think Helene asked that earlier. I think when we missed the offensive production when he was out of the lineup, that we need, whether it's another centerman or another impact forward at a different position to offset the loss of the offensive production. But collectively, the other part I say again is collectively, when you got to find a way to win games, and if you're not going to score 4 and 5 a game, you better tighten up defensively. So I think if we could, whether it's within the continued maturation of some of our younger guys, Lucas and that. We need to generate the offense that we missed without him in there, and and then play better D.
But did you expect more from the current group when he went out? I guess that's pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to say. I think we should have won more games. Yeah, I would. I would. Teams lose their top player all the time, and they find a way to win games.
Steve, were there times you came to work thanking the heavens you signed Alex Lyon? And kept him, didn't put him on waivers?
At the start of the year, we debated what to do. should we put, should we trade one? Should we put one on waivers? And then Billy got hurt, and both, at various times during the season, James and Alex played extremely well and were instrumental in us in getting victories. And down the stretch, they both played very well. And so yeah, we just kind of kept putting off the decision until the decision was made by itself, as we got to keep him. So we, again, got a little bit lucky by him and Hahn for a while, and it worked out.
Steve, when you contemplate a decision on David Perron, how much does just his leadership, his voice in the room, those kind of intangible factors play into your decision?
Yeah. Well, I'm not in the room, so that impact is, for the players. I'd say David. One, most importantly, if you watched him, you did watch him play down the stretch. This guy's been around for a long time. He's a Stanley Cup champion. He can handle the pressure. He actually thrives on it. He loves the challenge. He is a tremendous leader. For me, I say that, I'm not in the room, but I see it on the ice, and he's a take charge guy, and the moment's not too big for him. And he competes hard, and he's determined. He's a real professional. So he has a real positive impact on our team, and it's a player that I have to give strong consideration in to bringing back. And haven't had a chance to discuss with him at the end of the season here, his role and his thoughts and whatnot. But he has a very good impact on and off the ice for our team.
Did you have the same reaction that all of us did to him scoring with 3 seconds left or whatever it was in Montreal?
I didn't know what your reaction was. So.
Just shocked, I guess. Just
I was surprised. Yeah, it was the face-off. We got a bit of a break on the icing call. Finally, they did us a favor, right? But he. It was a bizarre. I just was like, seriously, that went in, and then it was those last 3 games. The finishes were
Steve,
memorable.
If they can work out their insurance issues, Mo and Lucas, would you like to see them play in the World Championship?
Sure. Yeah. I played in them. I've been a part of them as management. I think they're great opportunities for great experiences. One to play international hockey is a lot of fun. To get a chance to win a gold medal is very exciting. So yeah, I would support it fully for any of our players if they want to go. Great.
Okay, this is definitely a deep question here, but I want to ask you: wouldn't it be better in the long run? Because fans are salivating at Simon and Mo being your first pair. Wouldn't it be better to split them up? Simon on second pair, Mo on the first pair. Wouldn't that be more beneficial to the Red Wings? If I had Pellica up where probably with Mo.
Well, Pellica's a right shot D. So
is he right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
then I have him with Simon.
There you go. Okay. Maybe I can't answer it. As much as we plan, you can plan. This guy's going to play defensive pairs or forward lines together. I think it certainly would make for a good pairing. They're both big. They skate well. They can both move the puck, and I consider them both solid defenders. Depends on what the rest of our mix is, but I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be a good pair, in the future.
Well, situationally, you'd probably put them together. But.
The coach was just in here, Art. That's a question for the coach. Okay.
But he told me to ask you these questions.
I tell him what to do, and he does the opposite. So.
How close is Steve? How close is Kosa?
Pardon me?
How close is Kosa right now to being an NHL option?
Well, he's again had another a very positive year. He's made a lot of progress. He's getting more starts. He's going in the right direction. I can't answer that. I'm guessing really, and I don't want to, underestimate him or treat him disrespectfully or put undue expectation on him. But what I can tell you is he's earning more starts. He's playing more games. He's played well. He's earning more starts. He looks stopping more pucks, and that's positive. The coach will decide who plays in the playoffs, but he's progressed, and we're really hoping that team, for a whole host of reasons, obviously has a successful long playoff run, and he continues to go and play well, and if he does get the net and run with it, that puts him closer to the NHL. But right now, I still think he needs time. He's doing really well. He's working at his craft. He's getting better, and he's still got work to do. But I'm very encouraged by his attitude and his performance.
Steve, two quick housekeeping things. I think it's been a couple of years since Mark Howe retired. Have
Yep.
you replaced the director of pro scouting, or do you have a plan to?
Our scouting staff is in place, and titles may be different. We might not have anybody under the title of director of pro scouting, but our pro scouting staff is set and in place. Yeah.
And then I know the Traverse City tournament's gotten a little smaller over
Yep.
the last couple of years. Are you confident that'll be able to continue being happening at Traverse City, or are you kind of looking at options there?
Probably not the time to announce it, but the reality is, you're asking the question now, is us and Dallas are going to play 2 games. We're down to 2 teams now, and things are changing, evolving in that the off-season, the development camps, rookie tournaments, things are changing. Teams are doing different things, and so we're going to go up with our rookies, and we're going to meet Dallas there and play 2 games.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Steve.